Good evening. I would like to call the Prince William County School Board meeting to order. This emergency meeting of the Prince William County School Board is being conducted electronically to address issues related to the COVID-19 crisis as permitted by Section 2.23708(2)(a)(3) of Virginia's Freedom of Information Act, as well as the authority granted by the General Assembly on April 22, 2020 through Amendment 28 to House Bill 29. This recent legislation also permits the school board to meet electronically during the pendency of the current state of emergency for the purpose of transacting such business as is statutorily required or necessary to continue operations of the Prince William County Public Schools. Accordingly, the agenda for this emergency meeting is confined to items which either address the COVID-19 emergency as it affects PWCS and or business items required or necessary to the continued operations of the school division. For that reason, the agenda items previously designated for positively PWCS, student representative time, citizen comment, and board matters have been temporarily suspended. Superintendent's time will be confined to an update on the pandemic as it continues to impact PWCS. At this point, I'll ask a motion is in order for the approval of the closed session agenda.
So moved.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Williams,
I move that the Prince William County School Board approve the closed session agenda as recommended.
do I have a second? Ms. Ralston?
Second.
Ms. Ralston seconds. Okay. Any discussion? Great. Let's call the roll call for the vote. We're going in alphabetical order tonight for every round. We'll go to Ms. Jackson,
Yes.
Ms. Jessie.
Yes.
So Ms. Jackson and Ms. Jessie both vote yes. Dr. Lateef, I vote yes. Ms. Ralston, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Wall?
Yes.
Ms. Wall votes yes. Mr. Wilk?
Yeah.
Mr. Wilk votes yes. Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Williams votes yes. Ms. Zargarpur?
Yes.
Ms. Zargarpur votes yes. That is unanimous for that motion. We will now entertain a motion to enter closed session. Ms. Williams?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that pursuant to Virginia Code 2.2-3711, the Prince William County School Board enter closed session for the following reasons. 1, to discuss and consider the performance and assignment, disciplining appointments and releases of specific employees, appointees, or officers of the Prince William County School Board under Virginia Code 2.2-3711A, 1 and 8. And 2, to discuss with Division Counsel and take action on the disciplinary placement appeals of specific students under Virginia Code 2.2-3711A, 2 and 7, and 3, to consult with Division Counsel, the superintendent, and staff regarding personnel legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice threatening litigation involving specific personnel matters, T19-79 and T20-30 under Virginia Code 2.2-3711A, 1, 7, and 8. And 4, to consult with Division Counsel, the superintendent, and staff regarding legal, operational, and public safety matters created by the COVID-19 state of emergency under the Virginia Code 2.2-3711A, 5, 7, and 19, which matters require the advice of legal counsel.
Do I have a second?
A second.
And Ms. Wall seconds. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the roll. Ms. Jackson?
Yes.
Ms. Jackson votes yes. Ms. Jessie?
Yes.
Ms. Jessie votes yes. Dr. Lateef, I vote yes. Ms. Ralston?
Yes.
Ms. Ralston votes yes. Ms. Wall?
Yes.
Ms. Wall votes yes. Mr. Wilk?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes, Mr. Wilk. Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Williams votes yes. Ms. Zargarpur?
Yes.
Ms. Zargarpur votes yes. That is unanimous. So at this moment, we will now enter closed session. We will return to open session in approximately an hour and 10 minutes or so. And the Prince William County School Board will now reconvene in open session. We have a number of action items that we need to vote on. And we will start with the first one being 6.01, clarification of grievance appeal decision for employee T1979. Action item, Ms. Williams. You have to unmute, Lori.
Thank you. I was muted, sorry. Yes, I move that the Prince William County School Board authorize the chairman and division council to provide employee T19-79 with a letter further clarifying the school board's grievance decision of February 5th, 2020.
Do I have a second? Okay, Mrs. Zargarpur seconds. Jason, please make sure everyone has the ability to unmute if they can, and if you guys are, you can unmute as well. So I have a second from Ms. Zargarpur. I'm going to do the roll call vote again here. The roll call vote, we'll start with Ms. Jackson. How do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Jackson votes yes. Ms. Jessie?
Yes.
Ms. Jessie votes yes. Lateef, I vote yes. Ms. Ralston, how do you vote? Ms. Ralston?
Yes.
Ms. Ralston votes yes. Ms. Wall, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Wilk, how do you vote?
Oh, yes.
Mr. Wilk votes yes. Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Williams votes yes. Ms. Zargarpur? Ms.
Yes.
Zargarpur? Zargarpur votes yes. Okay, that's unanimous. Moving on to 6.02, approval of legal bills incurred in the matter of T2030. Action item. Please, a motion is in order, Ms. Williams.
Thank you. I move that pursuant to Virginia Code 22.1-82, the Prince William County School Board approve the payment of attorney's fees presented and incurred by a board member by virtue of actions in connection with the board member's duties in the matter of T20-30.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Ms. Jackson seconds. Any discussion? I'll call the roll call again. Ms. Jackson?
Yes.
Ms. Jackson votes yes. Ms. Jessie?
Yes.
Ms. Jessie votes yes. Lateef, I vote yes. Ralston?
Yes.
Ms. Ralston votes yes. Ms. Wall?
Nope.
Ms. Wall votes no. Mr. Wilk?
Yes.
Mr. Wilk votes yes. Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Yes. And Ms. Zargarpur?
Yes.
Yes. So that's 7 yeses, 1 no. Motion passes. Moving on to the authorization of FOIA for compliance purposes. Motion's in order, Ms. Williams.
I move that the Prince William County School Board authorize in the retention of legal counsel and the filing of a petition, if necessary, to comply with the division's FOIA obligations due to the impact of COVID-19 state of emergency on PWCS operations.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay. Let's move to the roll call. Ms. Jackson?
Yes.
Jackson votes yes. Ms. Jessie?
Yes.
Ms. Jessie votes yes. Dr. Lateef, I vote yes. Ms. Ralston?
Yes.
Ms. Ralston votes yes. Ms. Wall?
I vote yes.
Ms. Wall votes yes. Mr. Wilk?
Yes.
Mr. Wilk votes yes. Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Williams votes yes. Ms. Zargarpur?
Yes.
Ms. Zargarpur votes yes. Next, we will go to the adoption of the closed session consent agenda. This is an action item as well. A motion's in order, Ms. Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that the Prince William County School Board approve the closed session consent agenda as recommended.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Ms. Ralston seconds. Any discussion? Okay, roll call vote. Ms. Jackson?
Yes.
Ms. Jackson votes yes. Ms. Jessie?
Yes.
Ms. Jessie votes yes. Lateef, I vote yes. Ms. Ralston?
Yes.
Ms. Ralston votes yes. Ms. Wall?
Yes.
Ms. Wall votes yes. Mr. Wilk?
Yes.
Mr. Wilk votes yes. Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Williams votes yes. Ms. Zargarpur?
Yes.
Yes, that passes unanimously. Moving on to the closed session certification. Ms. Williams, a motion's in order.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that pursuant to Virginia Code 2.2-3712, the closed session of Prince William County School Board meeting of May 6, 2020, be certified by adopting the following resolution. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Prince William County School Board hereby certifies that, to the best of each member's knowledge, 1, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements were discussed in the closed meeting to which this certification resolution applies. And 2, only such public business matters that were identified in the motion convening the closed session meeting were heard and discussed or considered by the school board.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Ralston seconds. And any discussion? Okay, roll call again. Ms. Jackson?
Yes.
Ms. Jackson votes yes. Ms. Jessie?
Yes.
Ms. Jessie votes yes. Lateef, I vote yes. Lateef votes yes. Ralston?
Yes.
Ms. Ralston votes yes. Ms. Wall?
Yes.
Wilk? Mr. Wilk?
Yes.
Mr. Wall, Ms. Wall, Mr. Wilk both vote yes. Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Williams votes yes. Ms. Zargarpur?
Yes.
Ms. Zargarpur votes yes. That is unanimous on closed session certification. We will now, I would like to call the meeting of the Prince William County School Board to order. And I will read this statement for information because of the current COVID-19 crisis and the way we're setting up our meetings. The emergency meeting of the Prince William County School Board is being conducted electronically to address issues related to COVID-19 crisis as permitted by Section 2.2-3708.2 of the Virginia's Freedom of Information Act, as well as the authority granted by the General Assembly on April 12, 2020, through Amendment 28 to House Bill 29. This recent legislation also permits the school board to meet electronically during the pendency of the current state of emergency for the purpose of transacting such business as is statutorily required or necessary to continue operations of Prince William County Public Schools. Accordingly, the agenda for this emergency meeting is confined to items which either address the COVID-19 emergency as it affects PWCS and or business items required or necessary to the continued operation of the school division. For that reason, the agenda items previously designated for positively PWCS, student representative time, citizen comment time, board matters have been temporarily suspended. So superintendent's time will be confined to an update on the pandemic as it continues to impact Prince William County schools. Next, we will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Zargarpur has our flag and will lead.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great, thank you, Ms. Zargarpur. Next, we'll do the approval of the public meeting agenda. Action item, Ms. Williams, can you read the motion?
Sure. I move that the Prince William County School Board approve the public meeting agenda as recommended.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Ralston seconds. Any discussion? Okay, we'll do the roll call again. Ms. Jackson, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Jackson votes yes. Ms. Jessie?
Yes.
Ms. Jessie votes yes. Lateef, I vote yes. Ms. Ralston?
Yes.
Ms. Ralston votes yes. Ms. Wall? Ms. Wall?
Yes.
Ms. Wall votes yes. Mr. Wilk?
Yes.
Mr. Wilk votes yes. Ms. Williams?
Yes.
And Ms. Zargarpur?
Yes.
So Ms. Williams and Zargarpur both vote yes. That's unanimous as well. Move on to the, what did I just do? Okay, adoption of the consent agenda. A motion is in order.
I move that the Prince William County School Board approve the public meeting consent agenda as recommended.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I heard Ms. Ralston, so I'll give that to Ms. Ralston as a second. And then any discussion? Okay, as hearing no discussion on this, we will move to a vote. Ms. Jackson, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Jackson votes yes. Ms. Jessie?
Yes.
Ms. Jessie votes yes. Lateef, I vote yes. Ms. Ralston?
Yes.
Ms. Ralston votes yes. Ms. Wall?
Yes.
Ms. Wall votes yes. Mr. Wilk?
Yes.
Mr. Wilk votes yes. Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Williams votes yes. Ms. Zargarpur?
Yes.
Mrs. Zargarpur votes yes. That is unanimous as well. The next part of the meeting usually is the citizens' comment time. On April 1, 2020, in an emergency meeting called to address the COVID-19 crisis, the school board took action to temporarily suspend citizen comment time. Please see the minutes of the April 1st, 2020 agenda for further details. On April 22, 2020, the General Assembly approved temporary legislation authorizing school boards to meet electronically for the limited purpose of transacting business which is statutorily required or necessary to continued operations. In the interim, citizens are encouraged to provide their input through electronic means, including email, particularly, and any commentary on agenda items which will be shared with the board. Arrangements are being made. And any commentary on agenda items which will be shared with the board arrangements are being made for active citizen participation in public hearings held by electronic means during the state of emergency. Next, we'll go to, we're at 1401, which is the budget update. That's for information, and we will turn the meeting over to Dr. Waltz. Dr. Waltz?
Yes, I'm trying to get the slides up on the split screen.
Okay, great. Jason, can you work on getting those slides up now? And Mr. I think Wallingford, stand ready. Okay, Dr. Waltz, go for it.
Can you do it one more time, Jason?
So I see the slides. Oh, I did. There they are.
No, they're not.
For some reason, they're not showing on
Oh,
mine.
I can see them on, it says revenue changes FY 2021.
John, why don't you lead off with that?
Jason, can you get back to that, the first slide? Okay. John, you want to go ahead and lead off there until we can get Dr. Waltz sort of. John, can you see the slides?
Is John there?
John, I see John. John, can you hear me?
No.
So we're having a little bit of technical difficulties. If you be patient with me. Mr. Wallingford. So I see Dr. Waltz is on mute at this point.
Somebody needs to email her. Somebody needs.
So while they're trying to figure that out, John, can you hear us yet?
Dr. Lateef, I can hear you. I can't hear anybody else.
Okay, that's okay. I'm the only one talking, John. I can hear you now.
Okay, very good. Should I get started?
Yeah, do you see the slides?
I see the cover slide now.
Yes, so let's go ahead and get started. Dr. Waltz, are you able to see them?
I am.
Okay, great. Go ahead. Well, whoever wants to start.
All right. Okay, good evening again. So as you know, you approved a really powerfully positive budget. And unfortunately, with the pandemic, we've had to make some major adjustments to that budget. So this evening, I'm going to be recommending not only items for your consideration because the cuts are going to be very large, but also to have Mr. Wallingford give you an update on what our revenue projections are. So with that, I'll turn it over to John.
Thank you, Dr. Waltz. Can you hear me? Dr.
Yes,
Lateef?
Wallingford, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Very good. Thanks so much. Dr. Lateef, members of the board, and Dr. Waltz. The first slide is revenue changes, fiscal 2021. Can you see that slide on your screens?
No. There we go. Yes.
Very good. Here we go.
No.
So the numbers that you're looking at right now, the first column is the fiscal 2021 adopted budget. That is the budget that you adopted, this board adopted on March 18th. The fiscal year, the second column, the fiscal year 2021 proposed final budget. Those are the revenues with changes from the county, the state, and they include also the CARES Act money. And I'll get into detail about that in just a moment. The final column is the change between the budget you adopted and the revenues that we expect as a result of those changes I mentioned. So briefly, I'm going to go through those changes. County revenues, we asked for money in excess of the standard revenue share of 57 and 23. You can see the resulting change at a tax rate of $1.12.5 was a reduction of about $36 million, just under $36 million. On the state side, all of the new spending that was in the budget approved by the General Assembly and then went back to veto session after the governor made amendments, we have lost about $17 million. Those revenues included all new spending from the state perspective. And just one or two highlights on that. The 2% raise is gone and school counselor money was reduced as well. In addition to that, sales tax and lottery funding was not reduced in that budget. And I'll read a statement very shortly about that. What we had to do is we had to actually make adjustments ourselves based on our best judgment. And so the total of all those adjustments yielded about a $17 million reduction. And then finally, the beginning balance number you see at the very bottom, that beginning balance number has increased by about $7 million. And that's a function of the CARES Act money we expect to receive of about $9.2 million and a beginning balance reduction associated to some of the proposed cuts that you'll see later in the presentation. Thank you. Next slide, please, Jason.
Okay, am I back on?
Yes, sir, Dr. Waltz.
Okay, great. Right, so I wanted to explain essentially what things are in the budget that will support both our current programs and services, as well as new positions that we will need. So these are the new positions that will remain in the budget. There will be 155 additional teachers, 0.5 psychologists, 5 social workers, and 3 guidance counselors. So the FY21 final budget maintains 163.5 of the new school-based positions from the adopted 21 budget. Next slide, please. So this is the CARES funding from the federal government, and this shows you kind of an overview. The formula that the feds used was our Title I funding formula, so the percentages were based on that, although it's not Title I money. So we've received an allocation of approximately $9.3 million, which was used in the 20 budget to make up for revenue shortfalls. Then the discretionary allocations have been provided to the states, and those are continuing to be discussed. Virginia got 66.7 million, and about 50% of that will go to local divisions. And we have provided input to that process, but we don't have the final outcomes to that next. Go to the next slide, please. Next slide. So one of the things that we're deeply concerned about, first of all, is we don't know what is going to happen going into next year. We're not sure what's going to happen with the health concerns. Seems like I'm getting a lot of feedback.
Your privacy screen is up still, Dr. Waltz, as well. We can't actually see you. There you go.
All right. Thank you. So we're concerned about what's going to happen in terms of what we will be allowed to do and social distancing and all of those things. We're also extremely concerned about revenue shortfalls on sales tax and what's going to happen with the business community, property taxes, and all of that. So it's very important that we consider all of those factors as we look at some of the cash-based projects. Most of our CIP projects are bond funded. The other consideration is, if you'll look at this list, you see that there's a major renovation for Bennett Elementary School. I don't feel comfortable that we're going to be in the position of moving groups of 2 to 4 classrooms in and out of that school all year long with construction workers in and out. And many other considerations that are health concerns. So I'm recommending that on those cash-based projects that we defer those into next year, not cut them, but defer them. And that we go forward only with 2 cash-based projects, and that's the security festivals at Woodbridge Middle and Graham Park Middle. And then the only other consideration I have is this is the total list of cash-based projects. So if you were to defer those, and John's going to speak a little bit more about the importance of having some additional cash in reserve in just a moment. But the other consideration is we simply took every cash-based project except the 2 security projects and put them on the list. So there's not other projects that are cash funded that we are putting through. This is the total list. So in essence, what it does is it eliminates the board from having to pick and choose, like we're going to do this project at one school, but not someone else's project at a different school. This is the total list, and it also provides a little bit of security that Mr. Wallingford is going to speak to. And again, this is a deferral recommendation. Mr. Wallingford.
Very good. So let me read something very briefly. This is from communication we received from the state, from VDOE. Estimates of sales tax were not amended at the reconvened or the VO session. Upon receipt of updated sales tax projections, which may occur at a possible special session of the General Assembly later this summer or fall, VDOE will communicate such information to divisions when updated projections become available. So what that means is 2 of our substantial revenue streams that come from the state were not adjusted down. The revenue information that we received had the same numbers as the governor's introduced budget, and then the budget that was originally passed before COVID became an issue. And so what will happen over the next several months is that on a quarterly basis, both the county and the state will be looking at revenue receipts, primarily sales tax, that's the biggest, and making adjustments as they become necessary. So the point I'm making by sharing this information with you is that there is a level of uncertainty in our economy that makes everybody a bit nervous. And so what I would suggest is if we want to maintain some flexibility and not lay off folks or not, get ourselves into a situation where we don't have cash on hand, it would be advisable to defer these projects until next year after the economic difficulties are overcome. Thank you. Next slide, Jason. So here we go to the list. We have 3 pages of cuts. I'm not going to talk about every one of them. Each of you has a copy of this and you can read through those cuts yourselves. I'm just going to hit on a couple of the high points. So first, on the first slide, you'll notice that the 2% COLA, it's one of the first items on the list. The 2% COLA to staff has been reduced, and we will be providing to all employees a step, which is on average 2.8%. So that's the first one that I want to touch base on. The second item, if you go down a little further down this screen, you'll see economically disadvantaged funding at all 3 levels, K-5, 6, 8, and 9, 12. We've reduced those somewhat. What's important to note is that we're still $3 to $3.5 million ahead of where we were in the prior year, in the current year, fiscal 20. So even though we've taken a reduction to those allocation streams to schools, we're still substantially ahead of where we were last year. We're still gaining ground.
And Mr. Wallingford, if I could just make one more comment. I know when we had our budget work sessions, part of the discussion centered around the amount of money for the K-5. And I just wanted to remind the entire school board that the vast majority of that money is used to match the state money for the class size reduction grant that we enjoy every year for elementary students. So if we were not to have those large amounts of money, it would be nearly impossible to accept the class size reduction state money. Back to you, John.
Thank you, Dr. Waltz. Jason, please, next slide, please. So there's a variety of items on this second slide you can see. I'm going to give you just a couple of seconds to quickly scan through these. Many of these are positions. And then I'm going to ask Jason to go on to the next slide, if you would, please. So final slide here, I want to make just 1 or 2 points. If you take a look, again, several positions that are being deferred until future years. You can see one or two large items. The pay equity and compensation plan and the bus driver pay increases have been deferred until a future year. And then if you take a look at the very bottom, last 2 items, we have actually added 2 positions, one in payroll and one in benefits, because of the volume of work in the changes that have taken place in both how we're paying employees and the fact that we've moved the operations almost totally out of the Kelly Center into employees' homes, the workload has been substantial. We have folks in those offices working late into the night, every night. And so we've added, again, the grade 11 and the grade 13 in payroll and benefits. Jason, next slide, please. So timeline for the rest of the budget process. May 6th, that's tonight. On May 19th, it's our plan to have the county adopt the adjusted school budget based on the revised state numbers. And then the following day on May 20th, it's our intention to come back to the school board and hopefully we'll have an adopted budget at the end of that evening. Thank you.
Dr. Waltz, any further comment?
The only thing I would say is, it's disappointing to be so excited about many of the initiatives that the board too is excited about. But we want to make absolutely sure that we can pay our bills because we have to have a balanced budget. And, this is our reality. Luckily, having gone through the 12-year Great Recession, a few of us have had a lot of experience doing this. And as I hope you can see, we deferred on almost every central office position, but continued to put the money into the schools. And to date, we have not cut the school-based budget. So, again, we think this will put us in a good position. And I'll turn it back to the chair. Thank you.
Okay, so this was on for information, and we have if you keep that last slide up, Jason, the timeline slide, we are looking at the next couple of weeks working out with what I would ask each board member is to take a look at this budget, and then communicate with Mr. Wallingford, Dr. Waltz, any concerns you have. Jason, I'm getting some feedback. I don't know if there's some extra mic on somewhere. Okay, that sounds better. And I'd ask the board members to communicate with Mr. Wallingford, Dr. Waltz, and then we'll come back to that next board meeting and hopefully adopt a budget after we've sort of worked it out over the next couple of weeks. This again was on for information. And I fully expect the board members, just like they did in the first budget workup, to take a look at this and work with each other and with Mr. Wallingford and Dr. Waltz on any concerns they might have and things they may want to adjust or change. And let's see if we can get a working document up for the next meeting to sort of vote on and adopt.
Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Williams.
Because of our legal constraints, is there an opportunity for the board to meet again in maybe a mini work session to discuss any things? Or I would like to hear what the board has to say about that.
Sure. Ms. Jackson? We'll go in order again.
Yeah, it would be helpful to meet and discuss further as a board.
Ms. Jessie?
Can you hear me? Great. I think that this budget is so different from other budgets in that there's such a severe cut in this budget that perhaps a session would be good. I'm particularly concerned about the buses because we're adding more schools, and I'm concerned about the number of buses and will we have adequate transportation. And I know tonight is not the night, but I'm not sure when we're going to meet, but I think we could, that would be a good thing.
Ms. Ralston? Ms. Ralston?
Is that it now? Do you have it?
I can hear you now.
Okay, yes. I vote yes.
Okay, so
Oh.
Miss Wall?
Dr. Latif, are we making just general comments or are we
Yeah,
weighing in on a particular item?
I guess we're probably, you can make a quick general comment because we're not talking so detailed, but yeah, sure. And then sort of address Ms. Williams' thoughts about having some type of electronic work session.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks. I appreciate staff and working really hard on this budget. I know that's not a fun thing to do, to go through and differ so many things, but I really do appreciate the effort here. And so thank you. And I also, sure, I would be open about getting together in a work session to talk over some things. I'm also okay with, communicating one-on-one with Dr. Waltz or Mr. Wallingford, my particular comments or concerns. So either way is fine with me.
Mr. Wilk?
I think my greatest concern is losing the COLA, but I would like to see if possibly Mr. Wallingford could come up with another alternative plan of what additional 10 million of other things that would have to be cut to try to keep the COLA in the budget.
Okay, and then and then your thoughts on a work session?
I'm in favor.
And then Miss Williams, you made your comment. Ms. Zargarpur?
I would like a work session as well. And I would just be curious. This is very different from the last recession. So I have a lot of concerns and I know there's no answers, but I would like to, are we going to be able to revisit the budget like each quarter and see how things are going? Are we, I like to future trip a little bit and try to be ready for whatever may happen or not. So those are just some things I want to sort of talk about at some point. Doesn't have to be here, obviously. But yes, I would like to have another session.
Dr. Waltz, your thoughts on what Ms. Zargarpur said? If you have any. If to unmute, Dr. Waltz.
Yes, I'd be happy to respond to Ms. Agapur. So the good news is school budget, the most important thing is it has to be balanced by, it has to stay balanced by the end of the year. But the good news is, yes, a school budget can change. And by Virginia code, it can be revisited at any point in time. And so, for example, if I put my optimist hat on and it looks like, things were to improve and we get a vaccine and we wanted to open 10 pre-Ks halfway through the year and get the matching money or some other priority, yes, we can absolutely do that. That's one of the reasons I pretty much, on most of these items, put deferred.
Dr. Waltz, Lily Jesse, could I ask a question?
Sure.
Before the work session, the word deferred, maybe you could give us some thought, deferred. Do you have a timeline for this deferment? And also on those security considerations, I really think that we really need to think about the security at, I think, Grand Park and Woodbridge High School.
Yes, so I'll take the last comment and just say we agree with you. And so we are leaving those two projects in, and we would fund and do the construction for those security projects.
Thank you.
Excellent. So I think what we should do is we'll have the clerk get us some dates for possibly setting up a meeting. It would have to be next week sometime on a possible work session, and see if we can make arrangements for that. Again, that would be set up in a similar fashion, most likely electronic and public, just like our this current meeting. Also, again, the timeline is short, so my advice is, even if we do that, I would still ask the board members to communicate with Dr. Waltz and John Wallingford about their thoughts on where we ought to go, so that the work session is efficient and covers some ground there. And I think that would be very helpful, especially in the context of holding these electronic meetings. It's just very difficult to get everyone to sort of weigh in the way we normally do. So I would appreciate that. I think at this moment, I have just one question and thought, and we're not going to get too long into this, but Dr. Waltz, can you comment on the last recession? President Obama's stimulus package got the school division $40 million. This year in the CARES Act, we've got $9 million. Your thoughts, and maybe you can update the board on our conversations with Congressman Connolly on these thoughts.
Yes, we had an opportunity to do a Zoom conference with Congressman Connolly and with my counterpart, Dr. Scott Brabrand, the superintendent of Fairfax, and also with our chair and vice chair of Prince William County and Fairfax County. So that was a very positive meeting, at which time I referenced the very large difference between the stimulus package of then and now. So it was, as I said, I thought it was a very good meeting, but it sounds to me like the Congress is far from over in terms of looking at potential additional funding, and that there is movement among all parties of the Congress to look at additional support for schools. So I'm cautiously optimistic that there will be another infusion of funding for public schools.
Muted.
That hopefully, if something like that happens, then that would go right into what Ms. Jessie talked about, addressing those deferments.
Absolutely.
Some of the things we're talking about here, and in a large stimulus like that would really get us in a better position. But okay. So thank you for updating us on that. I think we should now move on to the next item on the agenda, which is
1501.
Which is it, 1501?
Mm-hmm.
1501. Okay. So we have, this is an item brought forward by Jennifer Wall, Lori Williams, and I, and it's an action item. And so, Ms. Wall, I would ask you, do you have the motion in front of you? Could you read that for us?
Sure. I move that the Prince William County School Board direct Superintendent Dr. Waltz to make adjustments to transcripts and grade point averages for all students who have taken courses during their time in Prince William County schools that have been adjusted for new course weighting for fall of 2020. This adjustment shall apply to all current 7th through 11th grade students. Transcript and grade point averages shall reflect the new weighted average for all students who took any course that is given weight as of the beginning of the 2020-21 school year. All course catalogs, websites, school counseling materials, and other appropriate materials will reflect this change.
I second.
Ms. Williams seconds, and we'll open the floor for discussion on this. And I'll give a little bit of background. I want to first thank Ms. Williams and Ms. Wall for working really hard on this. Ms. Williams from last year's efforts on getting those courses. There were a number of courses that we had that weren't weighted at 4.5 or 5, like our neighbors, Loudoun and Fairfax had. So we made that adjustment in the fall, but we never made the adjustment to adjustments to the grade point average for students who took those courses in the past. And so there were some citizens who reached out to us about this. We looked at this. You received a number of emails talking about the idea of doing this from staff. And I think, a number of us have decided that this is the right way to move forward. And I think this will be a really good program. I'll go to Ms. Wall and then Ms. Williams, and then we'll go around. Ms. Wall?
Okay. Yeah, sure. Thank you. So, of course, this is, we're looking for ways to make our, to increase our students' competitiveness, as Dr. Lateef said, with neighboring jurisdictions, for especially as our students go on to colleges and other advanced programs. So we think it will really help our students compare fairly and equitably with their regional peers in our jurisdiction who already weighed the classes this way. So the other reason I am in favor of this is our students work hard and their efforts deserve to be reflected in their GPAs. So more students will be able to meet the advanced course requirements as well they'll be willing to take that risk. It promotes our vision, one of our vision or goals, I should say, which is to define a world-class education as including a focus on encouraging students to learn and achieve high standards and to ensure curriculum is engaged and rigorous. So if we can do this, I think it will reward students for what they have done and are willing to continue doing. I think it's important at this particular time for these students. They are going to be entering into this next year and the year after that. They're trying to establish their resumes. They're trying to build opportunities. And all of these things will really help them. It will reflect their hard work in the past, and moving forward, it will be fair and equitable for our students.
Ms. Williams?
Yeah, I would just like to echo what Ms. Wall said. I agree wholeheartedly. I think that is the main heart of the issue. I also think that, as we move forward into the future, we see now that things like SATs and ACTs are not being valued as they were in the past. And so that makes grade point average even more important. And this is a great way to recognize this. I also want to just acknowledge that, as a board and as board members, we understand that this is a lot of work on a division that is already strained and understaffed, and we acknowledge that. And I just want to make sure that our staff knows that we don't take this decision lightheartedly. We acknowledge that there's a lot of work to be done on this, but we know that we have hired capable staff and it can be done. We also have not said it has to be done tomorrow. But it is an expectation of ours. So I just want to make sure that staff knows that we're not trying to put any undue burden on them, but this is a matter of equity that's important for our students, and that we understand the amount of workload that they have right now. And we're expecting for this to be done in a way that's manageable for them as well. And I just want to really give kudos back to Dr. Lateef and Ms. Wall for joining in on this effort, and thank the parents for understanding and patience and letting us get to this point. Because I think this is something that we, is really important, and maybe we just didn't give enough attention to in the past, and I know I didn't understand the issue down to this level. So I also appreciate the extra education provided for staff for it as well. So thank you.
Good. We'll go to Ms. Jackson if you have any comments.
No, I support this. Ms. Williams made a great point about supporting the staff, and I appreciate the sets high expectations or matches it by adjusting grades. So I support this initiative.
Thank you so much. Ms. Jessie?
I support the initiative. I do have concerns about, although Ms. Williams said SATs are not going to be as important and ACTs during the pandemic. I think their SATs and ACTs are here to stay. I do not think at this point that we are as competitive as we could be with that, and I hope that we'll continue to work on that. So I think anything we can do to make our kids have more access to top-level universities, and but I do think that this whole testing era we think is gone. It's not going to be gone, because the College Board is big.
Thank you. Ms. Ralston?
Yes.
Great. And then Mr. Wilk?
He's on mute.
Mr. Wilk, you're on mute, sir.
I'm sorry. I think Ms. Ralston took the words out of my mouth. Thank you.
So that's the best echoing all night, right? We'll go to Ms. Zargarpur.
I think this is a great idea. It definitely has been a long time coming. I know we have to look regionally at what other districts, I know people know that I don't like to compare us too often, but in this instance, our kids are doing the same work. They should be getting the same kind of credit for it. So I think this will go a long way to equalizing what our students do regionally. And again, I know it is going to be a little more work for our counselors to kind of do this retroactively. And I know they're going to be able to do this and take care of it. And I know there's going to be some kids who are going to feel really grateful for this, this extra that they'll be getting out of it.
Thank you, Ms. Zargarpur. And then I'll just wrap up with one of the reasons we put this on the agenda item for this evening was to give them enough time to get this done appropriately. And thank you, Ms. Williams, for pointing out the amount of work that it will take. And I want to thank staff in advance if this motion passes for all of their efforts. And this is exactly the kind of work that I'm excited that the school board is working on, and the kinds of things that I think directly impact our students and our students' families on a daily basis. So I can't thank you all enough, and we'll continue to find and work on these kinds of efforts. If there's no further discussion, I'd like to, Dr. Waltz, did you need to weigh in? I'm sorry, I saw you pop up on the screen there.
He's on mute.
You're on mute, sir. I didn't hear that. You were on mute, Steve. Dr. Waltz, you were on mute.
I serve at the board's pleasure on this one.
I see. Thank you very much, sir. We will take the roll call. Ms. Jackson?
Yeah.
Ms. Jackson votes yes. Ms. Jessie?
Yes.
Ms. Jessie votes yes. Lateef, I vote yes. Ms. Ralston?
Yes.
Ms. Ralston votes yes. Ms. Wall?
I vote yes.
Ms. Wall votes yes. Mr. Wilk?
Yes.
Mr. Wilk votes yes. Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Williams votes yes. Ms. Zargarpur?
Yes.
Ms. Zargarpur votes yes, and that is a unanimous, resounding vote. So thank you very much for that and supporting that. We will go next to the superintendent's time, which in this case is the pandemic update. Dr. Waltz, sir.
Thank you, Chairman Lateef and members of the board. Good evening. I'd like to start by thanking our teachers and nurses, especially during this Teacher and Nurse Appreciation Week, as well as our principals, counselors, bus drivers, food service providers, and custodians. I want to give a special thanks of support also to our staff of technology and communications, finance and payroll, human resources, facilities, student learning, student services, and all the other staff members for their daily Herculean efforts in helping our students, parents, staff, and community. I'm very proud of the efforts our staff and students and families are making to stay home and stay safe, and also to participate in home learning. 2 weeks ago, I was joined by nearly 700 students in the first ever virtual Sparking STEAM event intended to provide hope and introduce students to career opportunities in the areas of science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. The Introduce a Girl to STEAM event originally was scheduled for April 18th at Benton Middle, was rescheduled due to this global pandemic. The event was sponsored by Spark, the Education Foundation for PWCS, and a special thank you to Gary Sims and to Walmart. The event featured guest speakers Patrick Picasso Hunter, a live performance painter, Carly Kloss, an American supermodel and entrepreneur, DJ Steady Rock, and Lena Gooden, a student at Osborne Park High School. The event also provided several prize giveaways for students. During the event, I highlighted a few examples of the amazing community service projects our students are doing in this pandemic that are STEAM related. I'm really proud to see PWCS students and staff members using technology and engineering to solve problems during the pandemic. Students from Forest Park and Colgan High Schools and a teacher from Woodbridge are using 3D printers to create face shields and masks for our actual Prince William County healthcare providers and others serving on the front lines. Students from the Governor's School, Forest Park High, and Osborne Park are giving away free refurbished computers through free and accessible technology at fati.io. They put their engineering and technology skills to work to help solve a critical problem in our community. These are just two examples of the many ways students and staff are reaching out to help each other and our community. I would like to provide an update for the board and the community on our ongoing efforts during the pandemic to continue to meet our students' needs, including learning, mental health support, and nutrition. I will also share some plans for the month ahead, including this summer and our preparations for the next academic year. School nutrition has served 325,492 meals at 22 school sites since March 16th. I had the opportunity to see this firsthand when I went to Forest Park High School this past week. The positivity of the staff and families were amazing. I was so impressed by the can-do spirit of everyone involved. Also, we have had community partners working to help our families with their weekend food needs, including the Chow Wagon. The Prince William County Community Foundation, Inc. Chow Wagon serves non-perishable and perishable foods every Friday to help families provide food through the weekend. The Chow Wagon will be distributing food from 9 to 11 a.m. on the following dates: May 8th at Lake Ridge Middle, May 15th at Saunders, May 22nd at Potomac View Elementary School, and May 29th at Fannie Fitzgerald Elementary. Everyone is welcome. Our students and teachers have been working incredibly hard to implement our virtual schoolhouse and our home learning plans, as I detailed to you at the previous board meeting. The complete plans and details are available on our website. I also want to note that the Superintendent of Public Instruction approved the request for our school division for a length of school term waiver, meaning our plans for the remainder of this academic year will move forward. We know our schools are using multiple methods to connect with our students. I would like to just share the statistics for just one of our tools used by teachers. Microsoft Teams has more than 35,000 active users. 4,552 live meetings have been organized. 10,283 group calls have been conducted, and 974,000 chat messages have been sent. Our schools have been collecting and collaborating with our information technology IT staff to distribute as many devices to our students as possible. Through a telephone survey and our feedback, we have determined that more than 30,000 students do not have access to a device at home. If your student is in need of a device for learning at home, but you did not receive the survey, please contact your child's school, which you can do by email. Our high schools have already provided more than 3,000 devices to high school students. This week, our middle and elementary schools will begin their distributions as well. We recognize that should remote learning become required this fall, as opposed to optional, that demand may increase, and we will be working to continue to procure and prepare as many devices as possible. The last day of our third quarter marking period was April 24. Report cards have been mailed home from middle and high school students on May 5th and are available on both Parent View and Student View. Elementary parents can view report cards and attendance in Parent View. Schools are communicating specifics regarding the distribution of report cards at each individual school. While learning at home is currently optional, it is important to note that teachers continue to communicate to students through existing communication methods to provide opportunities for students to improve their grades, even in this fourth quarter. As a reminder, student grades can only improve from where they were on March 13th. While no grades will be posted in marking period 4, any optional work students complete after March 13th will be reflected in assignments in marking period 1, 2, or 3. Ultimately, the final grade a student receives may be modified by our professional teachers to improve the student's grade if a student demonstrates additional mastery and improvement through the distance learning opportunities offered through the end of this academic year. High school counselors are reviewing seniors' records to determine if they have met all graduation requirements. They are contacting students to let them know if they have completed those requirements or to offer assistance to any student that needs additional support to get across that finish line. I know that there have been a significant amount of interest in providing graduating seniors the opportunity for in-person graduation ceremonies. Our comprehensive high school principals have recommended, they have met together as a group in great detail, and are recommending in-person graduation ceremony dates of August 4, 5, 6, and 7. Independence Non-Traditional School is tentatively planned for August 3rd in person, and Pace West August 19th in person. The ceremonies will be held at schools, potentially in stadiums, gyms, or auditoriums, with families in attendance. Part of where they have their graduations may also be dependent upon the weather. However, tickets may be limited depending upon exact social distancing requirements and the size of the venues. The ceremonies will follow the social distancing requirements that are in place as of those dates. It is very important to note that this plan and these dates may be changed depending upon the evolving health situation related to COVID-19 virus. Should health precautions prohibit an in-person, then optional virtual options will be considered. So again, I want to say I have a ton of interaction with seniors, and we're going to do everything we can to make something special for our graduating seniors. You can rest assured of that. The Governor's School at Innovation Park and Thomas Jefferson High School will follow any dates determined by the jurisdictions responsible, the City of Manassas and Fairfax County respectively. The specific details will be determined by our high school principals in the weeks ahead. High schools are also working with the graduation gown vendors on distribution of caps and gowns. Some vendors will be mailing the caps and gowns, and others will provide a pickup with social distancing in place. So your individual high schools will communicate the methodology. Per our existing regulation, I also want to assure families that no student is going to be denied the opportunity to participate in a graduation ceremony due to outstanding meal debts. And also this year, we will also apply this to any other debts owed by families to a school. We recognize that families will do their best to ensure that such debts are met as soon as they are financially able to do so. Since the closure, the Department of Student and Professional Learning, which includes the offices of Student Learning, English Learner EL programs and services, and Professional Learning, have served and supported 3,171 teachers, leaders, and staff members in 222 virtual instructional support sessions. I just had an opportunity to zoom into our nurses meeting today. We had all of our 100 nurses there and wanted to wish them, great success and thanks, a lot of love for distributing our medications. We were the leading school district on that this year, and just to thank them for all they're doing, and they're working hard to stay in touch with students, especially those that might have health-related concerns. And they also shared with me that they had many of them who are taking part in professional development as well. This includes support for every content area and every level, every subject, elementary, middle, and high school. Our special educators and related service providers continue to partner with our parents to provide support to our students with disabilities. Our team in the Office of Special Education has developed answers to frequently asked questions and a special education resources page that provides parents ideas on how to support their child while learning at home. Our school teams and central office staff continue to meet special education timelines and create individualized education plans by holding meetings virtually. Also, we are providing additional supports for our EL families, including families with dually identified students. The Office of EL Programs and Services, in collaboration with representatives from the Offices of Student Learning and Special Education, will be working together to support the full range of needs of our EL families during our virtual Parent Camp event series. This event series will be offering sessions every Tuesday evening in May from 6 to 7 p.m. These sessions will be offered in English, Spanish, Urdu to meet the needs of our participants. Also, beginning on May 4th, PWCS TV, the school division's local cable channel, will begin airing VA TV Classroom. The Virginia Departments of Eds help create this teacher-led classroom instructional program, which aligns with the state's academic standards. PWCS TV is available on Comcast Channel 18 and Fios 36. The channel is also streamed live on PWCSTV.com. That's PWCSTV.com. Visit the site and select the Watch Live button in the top right-hand corner. In order to better serve the academic needs of our students during this unprecedented cancellation of the school year, the School Division's Office of Media Production Services worked with Homeroom One, which is known as WHRO Public Media, to rebroadcast their VA TV classroom programs right on our own PWCS TV. Programs will air Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. until noon and will repeat from 2 p.m. till 5 p.m. Programs will reinforce learning in reading and writing, algebra, earth science, English, math, and more. Beyond academic support, we continue to support our students' mental health needs. 250 students have taken advantage of the virtual emotional support offered by Student Services since the March closure. The Student Support Services email remains open for any student in need of assistance. They can email studentsupportservices@pwcs.edu. Again, that's studentsupportservices@pwcs.edu. And I did a personal conference call with both our Director of Support Services, Becca Schlater, and Richmond Hill, who oversees our counselors, and had a great conversation touching base with the kinds of things that they're hearing from our students and in some cases from parents. And we are also working to make sure we're trying to reach out to any student that hasn't been in close contact with their teachers. So they're working very, very hard to make sure we touch base with all of our students. Our human resources, better known as HR team, also continues to virtually meet with and advise employees who have workplace concerns. Our HR team also continues to recruit, screen, and hire for critical positions, including offering practice Skype interviews. 77 certified candidates participated in our virtual job fair on April 13th. Currently, we have 87 candidates with confirmed registrations for our next virtual fair on May 12th. We are also in the planning process and making preparations for digital onboarding and orientation of staff this summer for the 2021 school year. HR also successfully transitioned with the support of our IT department, the health insurance open enrollment process, and it moved from paper to an online process through employee self-service. HR is also continuing to respond to requests for tuition reimbursement, as many employees are taking courses and training during the shutdown. Beyond serving our students and staff, we continue to support the needs of our community. As such, we have asked to support the elections. We have been asked, and we agreed to support them on June 23rd, and we will do so, including providing custodial support. We also continue to move forward with our 13th high school naming process and Potomac Shores Middle School boundary process. This includes multiple methods for citizen comments, including live comments. Details and dates for the meetings will be shared in multiple languages and methods to those communities involved in these processes. I recognize that there are many questions about plans for the fall and summer, as well as when staff and students will be able to get into buildings to collect personal belongings. These plans will also be highly dependent upon the guidance of the governor, along with national, state, and local health officials. We have collaborative teams working to develop plans for picking up personal materials in buildings and can hopefully occur after the June 10th stay-at-home order expires and potentially on a limited basis before then if there's an urgent item to be picked up. Due to the highly unknown path ahead, we are evolving our summer school plans to online instruction and resources rather than in person. The virtual Prince William programming will be offered as in previous years. And additionally, we will launch Operation Graduation that will focus on credit recovery and support for high school students that need that support. For grades below high school, we will offer methods for students to encourage and support independent learning, including literacy and other programs. For middle school students, we will make every effort to create a fail-safe of support for those students needing additional help in core academic areas. The details for our summer programming are still being finalized, and we will communicate more information in the weeks ahead. We may also need to adjust any plans based on the new state guidance. As we look to the fall, PWCS has multiple staff members serving on the Virginia Department of Education Return to Schooling CVD-19 Recovery Task Force. I'm very pleased about that. This includes Associate Superintendent Denise Hebner, Gina Bellamy, our Administrative Coordinator for Nursing, Andrew Buckheit, Principal at T. Clay Elementary, and Sue Danielson, a Principal at Rosa Parks. The state task force charge is to assess student emotional, social needs, and to design interventions, begin proactive systems, recovery planning, including health, safety, operations, staffing, and technology. Assess instructional needs and develop instructional plans. Identify budget needs, priorities, and federal stimulus opportunities, and advance equity and opportunities for students returning to formal instruction. The Virginia Department of Education, VDOE, has also established an accreditation task force. The charge of this task force is to make recommendations for any potential adjustments to the 21-22 accreditation ratings based on the 2021 data. Membership on this task force includes representatives from each region, plus VDOE staff members and representatives from various associations. Prince William County has a member on that task force as well. Dr. Tim Healy, principal of Colgan High School, is serving on the task force as the representative from the Virginia Association of Secondary School Principals, where he serves as the state president-elect. The accreditation task force will make recommendations to VDOE later this month. The state superintendent and U.S. Department of Education have made it clear that they expect required learning to be supported for all students this fall, even in remote settings. We recognize the many challenges this creates, and we are in the early planning stages to consider exactly how to successfully do this. Our key initiative we'll be launching is unifying the school district on the Canvas learning management system this fall. This is a critical tool, especially if we need to do required remote learning at any time next year, should COVID require more closings. We have heard from many teachers, students, and families that it can be difficult to keep track of the many assignments and tools offered by our schools. Unifying on Canvas will make it much simpler for students and parents at home to go to a single place for all their learning, as well as for the teachers. The use of a learning management system was approved as a part of the school board FY21 budget. Canvas is a best-in-class tool utilized by universities nationally and within Virginia, Northern Virginia Community College, and thousands of school divisions across America. The Commonwealth of Virginia also utilizes Canvas for Virtual Virginia. The platform is highly scalable, secure, and reliable, and runs on Amazon Web Services. This critical tool will integrate with existing platforms, including the Hub, Microsoft Teams, and Google Classrooms. Canvas also offers easy-to-use parent, student, and teacher apps available on mobile devices. Nearly 500 teachers and 10,000 students are already using the tool in PWCS, including 1,700 courses and more than 15,000 assignments. Our recent feedback we received has been really amazing, and I want to just share one elementary teacher's feedback that I received. Quote, "The kids can complete the interactive activities in PowerPoint And I am giving feedback from my phone. Where has this been all my life? End quote. Details regarding deployment and training are underway, and we will be working over the summer to better refine our use of the platform. We have teams beginning to consider our further instructional plans this fall in support of our learners, including special education and EL students. I know that there are many questions, and we don't have all the answers yet. I want to pledge that we will continue to place health and well-being of our students, teachers, staff, and families in the highest priority as we consider fall plans. As I conclude this evening, I want to again thank our entire community for working together for everyone's health. I want to thank our healthcare providers and frontline first responders who continue to provide heroic service. We all need to remember to do our part to help our healthcare workers and protect our community. This includes not gathering in groups over 10, including on any of our own school fields, and staying off of playground equipment. Again, I'll use this example. It's one thing for a couple of people to bat around a soccer ball on one of our fields. It's something very different to have an organized contact game of football. So again, I'm not partial to any sport, but I'm just saying we need to really think about these things with social distance. And I've had several board members who've heard from constituents, and really the board wanted to make sure that I mention this. We also encourage our families to ask your children to observe health department recommendations when they play with friends at home or in their neighborhood. It's difficult for us to physically enforce this, so we have to ask that everyone do their part, and we will get through this together. So my own daughter went to someone else's birthday party. They pulled up in the high school parking lot. They put their vehicles in a circle. They got out behind the vehicles with lots of social distance and wished their friend a happy birthday and had a good conversation with social distance. So there are ways to do this, and we will get through it together. So I want to thank you for your continued support, and on behalf of our great school board and our wonderful world-class staff, we miss you, students. We look forward to seeing you.
Thank you, Dr. Waltz. Thank you for that very comprehensive update. I think I speak for the entire school board, thanking you, your staff, for the incredible work you are doing around the clock to benefit all of our students, and to work with us as we're dealing with these challenging times, including the change in the budget, the emotions running high with our students. And I can't thank you enough. In the news about graduation and commencements, I think the school board members are excited to hear, and I hope the community will be excited to hear. And hopefully, as things work out, as you pointed out, if things all line up correctly, maybe we can get this done. And so I look forward to all of you and your team working hard on this. And I think with that, folks, to get the updates on what Dr. Waltz mentioned, you can continue to go to the Prince William County Schools website for the coronavirus updates that continue to list all new changes and updates. And with that, I think we can move to adjournment, and I think we will adjourn till next week, or until 2 weeks from now.